Welcome to the Courtroom Chronicles. This channel is dedicated to educational content based on real-life cases and true events. This content shared here is drawn directly from the actual case file, and no names, places, or items have been changed. However, the content has been carefully summarized and presented for educational purposes in a comprehension format to inform, enlighten, and spark meaningful discussions. Whether you're here to learn, reflect, or simply understand the real-world scenarios better, you're in the right place. We believe in the power of truthful storytelling to educate and inspire. Disclaimer: while all stories are based on real cases, they are presented in a condensed and structured format for clarity and learning. Viewer discretion is advised where necessary. This case is cited from the Nigerian National Industrial Court online file, which is public record. A Forced Farewell. The story of Korede Hussein versus Nigerian Agip Oil Company Limited. In a quiet courtroom of the National Industrial Court of Nigeria, a significant case unfolded, one that would examine the true meaning of voluntary retirement and raise questions about fairness and accountability in employment practices. At the heart of it was Mr. Korede Onlanrewaju Hussein, a man who had dedicated years of service to Nigerian Agip Oil Company Limited. But when his time at the company abruptly ended under the title of voluntary retirement, Korede knew something wasn't right. He hadn't planned to retire. He hadn't signed any enthusiastic goodbyes. Instead, he believed the company had masked a forced termination with the word voluntary, a word that should imply choice, not compulsion. Korede challenged his exit in court, arguing that the so-called voluntary retirement lacked his genuine consent, and more importantly, had bypassed necessary approvals required under Regulation 15A of the Petroleum, Drilling, and Production Regulations of 1988. He wasn't only questioning the legality, he was questioning the ethics. He also sought damages for salary arrears, and he demanded that penalties already imposed on the company by the Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR, be enforced. For Korede, this wasn't just about a job, it was about justice. The company, however, had its own defense. They insisted the lawsuit lacked substance. According to them, it disclosed no reasonable cause of action. It was out of time, statute barred. Korede had no standing to even sue, they claimed. But the court saw it differently. The presiding judge cut through the procedural fog. Yes, Korede had a valid case. Yes, the court had jurisdiction to hear it. And yes, it was time to examine what had really happened between the lines of the retirement letter. As the substantive issues were laid bare, the court made a critical finding. Korede's retirement was not voluntary at all. The company had exploited a provision, Clause 15A of their conditions of service, that allowed them to push employees out under the guise of voluntary exits. It was an unfair labor practice, the court concluded, one that stripped the word voluntary of its true meaning. However, Korede's arguments didn't win across the board. His reliance on the DPR guidelines in Regulation 15A was misplaced. These regulations, the court ruled, did not govern private employment contracts. They were ultra vires, beyond legal authority in this context. As such, any claims based on ministerial approval or enforcement of DPR penalties were struck out. Still, the court found one more thing in Korede's favor. The company had made unauthorized deductions from his benefits, deductions they couldn't justify through any contractual clause. The result? The court ordered Nigerian Agip Oil Company Limited to refund Korede the sum of $6,811,746.87. The final verdict: Korede won. 1. The court declared his retirement involuntary. 2. He was awarded a refund of over $6.8 million for unauthorized deductions. Korede lost. 1. His larger monetary claims, particularly those tied to DPR penalties and approvals, were dismissed as unenforceable under private contract law. Lessons from the bench. What could have been done differently? 1. This case was not just a battle over employment, it was a mirror for best practices in workplace exits. Here's what could have prevented the legal showdown. 2. Clarity in contract terms. The company's internal policies were vague and allowed for manipulation. Employment terms should be negotiated clearly, with staff or union input to prevent future disputes. 3. Proper use of regulations. If DPR guidelines were meant to influence employment contracts, they should have been expressly included in those contracts. Courts don't enforce industry rules unless they are legally embedded. 4. timely legal engagement with regulations. If the company doubted the DPR's authority, they should have challenged it in court early on instead of ignoring it. Clear exit documentation. Korede's decision to accept retirement benefits under protest proved critical. It showed he hadn't accepted the terms willingly, an important distinction. For employers, this is a reminder. Document everything clearly and get mutual agreement. The story of Korede Hussein is more than a legal case, it's a cautionary tale. It reminds employers and employees alike of the importance of transparency, lawful processes, and mutual respect in the workplace. Thanks so much for watching, fam. I really appreciate you spending your time with me. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, drop a comment below, and let me know what you think about the case. I love hearing your thoughts and feedback. And hey, if you felt a connection or learned something new, give this video a like and share it with someone who might enjoy it too. Until next time, stay safe, stay real, and I'll catch you in the next one.